But I was coming back from Ireland 2 weeks ago, and I went through, beep. The guy looks at me and I said, knee replacement. He says, okay. And we're getting on a fully loaded 767, I think, to come back here. He said, okay. In Atlanta, they got to feel me up and they won't give me a woman. It really ticks me off. I want to introduce this man. Here's how I'm going to introduce him. How many of you listen to my show? Okay, did you hear the story about the eagle that fried itself?
Yeah.
Don't you love that story? Okay, there's this eagle living in a tree, a dead tree down there in Naples, Florida. And there's this developer that wants to build he owns the property, wants to build. But the wealth envy crowd said, oh no, there's an eagle there, you can't build. So it starts a big huge fight about that. And goes on and on, you know, we're going to extort some money out of you, we're going to do this. But the so-called environmentalist, whose main purpose really was to make sure this evil developer couldn't make any more money, because all developers have already made enough, they would sit out there on that property and watch this eagle all the time. Because they had to, you know, they had to play the role. So they'd sit out there and they'd have picnics and they'd drink coffee and spritzers and whatever and watch the eagle. And so one day the eagle just took off out of his nest, soaring majestically around the mangroves, did about a 60-degree bank, flew into some power lines, one wing on one line, the other wing on the other line, and fried it in a heartbeat. And I was at home down there at the time, and I saw the power. I was on the air, go blink like that. So the eagle was fricasseed, and the evil developer now can go ahead and build his building, because how he got that eagle to fly into those power lines, I'm never going to be able to figure it out. So, ladies and gentlemen, the evil developer, Don Corace. He loves animals and has dogs and feeds them and stuff. But he wrote Government Pilots. His own experience with the eagle and other environmental and land-taking concerns caused him to write Government Pilots. Now, I want you to buy that book. Damn it. No, that's fair tax book. Buy Government Pilots. I mean, if you have any love of property rights at all, Don, talk to these people. Tell them about your eagle. You know, and if they get fried that way, they're really chewy.
Well, when Neil's down in Naples, he always wants to get these stories from me. Of course, I'm still developing property in the area, and you know, the local environmentalists, which we're always dealing with, the elected officials, they don't want to hear these stories. So every once in a while, they'll say something on the radio, and I have to call and say, Neil, you're not supposed to say that, you know, because you're going to get me in trouble. But one of the things on the eagle that he didn't mention was that there was a woman in a nearby condo project that always looked out after the eagle. She actually had accused us of going out on the property at one time, trying to cut the tree down, and the eagle, of course, we never did that. So when this occurred, when the eagle got fried, as he says, on the wire, she was actually watching the whole thing on a telescope. And when the eagle actually hit both wings on the wires, you would think that it would just fall forward and go on the ground, but it actually fell back, and it just hung there for about 15 to 20 seconds. And when it fell to the ground, it was just a fluff of feathers. Now, obviously, we didn't have anything to do with that, but Neil is right. That eagle, the whole issue that we were dealing with on our project was one of the things that actually intrigued me about what else is going on in property rights, because I've developed property from Florida, Texas, and Southern California, and I, as an evil developer, have dealt with the government for years and years. But what I was going through that eagle issue, but at the same time, in June of 2005, when I walked out my door in the morning to pick up my newspaper, there it was on the front page, the Kelo versus New London eminent domain decision. For those of you who don't know what that is, let me just digress. The Supreme Court decision was 5-4 in favor of New London, Connecticut. New London, Connecticut actually transferred its powers of eminent domain to be able to seize property which normally is used for public uses. They transferred that power over to a private developer, and that private developer then seized homes and businesses from everyday people for the sake of building high-rise luxury condos, hotels, and shopping centers. And when I read that in the newspaper, despite me being a developer and despite many people saying, well, that creates more opportunities for you guys, well, I had seen the utter stupidity and the recklessness of local officials over the years, and I was outraged. And in addition to that going on, as well as the Eagle and talking with Neal, and by the way, Neal needs to take some credit for this book, because as I was researching it, I bounced things off of him. He was very instrumental in helping me kind of frame the message. But that's what impassioned me to write this book. And essentially, in going out on the media campaign, which started in New York last week, I have really been heartened for people like yourselves to come out to book signings, people to call into radio stations. And quite frankly, I'm surprised on how many people are impassioned by this issue, because they know someone, either they have directly been affected by the government, or somebody that they know has been affected. And it's a serious issue, and there's no other better advocate than my boy, the Talkmaster here, because obviously, you know,